Hello, everyone. I'm Jared, and you might know me from being the MC of this conference, but I also like to talk about things. And today, I like to talk about documentation, but not documentation now, documentation back in the 80s. Let me show you this. This is a pinball machine manual. So I'll just bring it up. What you're seeing there is the machine maintenance manual for a Gottlieb pinball machine in 1980. Note the affordable price of $3. The cost of this manual now is $20 if I have to buy it. But I want to do this one today, and as you can see, I've got some notations on it because the way that this document is designed for a certain audience and a certain purpose. And along the way, they've made some sacrifices about information design, but also put the focus on things that matter. And I want to share that with you today. So when you open up the guide, you'll see it's got your usual table of contents on the right there, and you open up with this big reference table. And this thing here does a lot of different jobs in one page. And this is really important with the manual because they have limited space. It not only does gives you a switch reference, which is really important when you're trying to troubleshoot a fault, but it also tells you what switch does what in the game. And it even tells you how much score you get when that switch is hit. So if you're trying to troubleshoot a fault, this page is quite useful. Then you go over to this page here, which is the opening page of the manual. And there's a few interesting little points here, which I'll bring closer to the camera so you can see. So right here at the top here, you've got some procedural steps, but you'll see that they're not in a bulleted list or an itemized list. They're just a sentence. And I think this was done for space saving purposes. There's a combination of information types on here. There's procedures and checklists, but you'll see that in this particular installation step here, the important things are all lined out in a checklist, because if you don't follow these, you can essentially blow up your pinball machine or cause major damage to the circuitry in it. So they did a sacrifice to make this shorter, but emphasize these points as being more important. Then you move down to this section here, which is another important bit of information right at the front of the manual. These color codes for the wires that you see here are integral when you're actually looking at schematics. And you need this code to able to work out whether you've got a 037 wire that you're supposed to be connecting to something, or whether it's a 025 wire. Colors matter, and this reference is really important. Then if you have a look over in this section here, this is the most important section for an operator because this is how they earn money. This part of the manual here describes the dip switches, which are little on-off switches that you set on the game board that tell you how many credits you get when you input a coin in. So if you're an operator, you really pay attention to this, and you need it really quick and really visible when you're actually on site, because often you're having to read this in low light in the dingy arcade in the 80s. And it has to be very clear and very concise, and you need to be able to look at this information and work it out really, really fast. So that's a really important page as well. Then you move over to this page, which surprised me a bit, and this is game operation. If you've never seen a pinball machine before, which back in the 80s, these were coming in as a brand new technology, being solid state and the advent of chips instead of electromechanical pinball machines, this section here gives you that conceptual, never seen this before, what is it sort of instruction for an operator, so they understand what it is and theoretically know how a machine works before even looking any further into the manual. So they put the really important reference stuff up the front first, and then they go into the more, so what is this thing that I'm looking at, which I think is important because operators need to find this information really fast. So moving forward quickly, here's a great example of callouts in the 1980s. So it's a little bit hard to see in this document here, but you'll see that each one of these references on this manual is numbered. And it refers to a various number of things like switch matrices and CPU control lamps, which I won't bore you with the details of, but when you're, again, trying to work out what light's not working and why it's not working, really important to know. There's also things like coil reference charts, which are really important. So down here, that's the coil references that are used in the game. Those are important because when you pull a coil out of a game, it looks like this. So you pretty much can't tell what that number is. So you need that reference chart down there to know that this is the coil that you actually need to put in your machine. and not some other value, because if you get that wrong, you break your game. So that's a really quick introduction to information design in the 80s for docs. I hope you enjoyed it. There's more to come. So if you've got any questions or you want to geek out with me about pinball, just hit me up in a conference after the fact and I can talk some more. Thank you.